The 80s had the General. The 90s had John Gilligan. In the noughties, it was the reign of Martin Marlowe Hyland. His was a familiar path with success and power, and then the recklessness. He had to go, because with him, an innocent young man doing an honest day's work died. Crime World presents Caught in the Crossfire, the unsolved murders of coke kingpin Marlowe Hyland and innocent Anthony Campbell. Available now on all podcast platforms. I kind of thought that investigation into Keane Mulready-Woods' murder was almost at its end. I don't know why. I just kind of thought that they had got as far as they'd got. Was surprised to see two men up before the courts again today.
Yes, two men appeared before the courts just a couple of hours ago. So they've both been charged in relation to the murder. One is facing charges, 3 charges in terms of direct relation to the murder. He's actually the brother of Richie Carberry. We can talk about that in a minute, but his name is Stephen Carberry and he's a 46-year-old Dublin man. His address is at Adair Apartments in Sandymount in Dublin 4. He's actually facing 3 charges. One of them is, I'll read out, essentially he's accused of helping to move and dispose of Keane Mulready-Woods' remains. Obviously, we know that his body parts were found in different locations over certain dates. So I'll read out the official charges so people can get a handle on it. But basically, he's charged with participating in or contributing to transportation and disposal of body parts of Keane Mulready-Woods at Trinity Terrace, Ballybough, Dublin 3, between the 13th and 15th of January 2020. He's then accused of acting to impede the apprehension or prosecution of a person who committed murder, knowing or believing them to be guilty of that offence between the same dates. And then the third charge relates to a car. So he's accused of damaging by fire a Volvo V40 and that it was bearing false registration plates at Trinity Terrace for the benefit of a criminal organisation. So there was evidence obviously given to the court of arrest, charge and caution, and Detective Sergeant Enda O'Sullivan told the court that when he was being charged, Carberry replied, "I was never in Ballybough." He's replied that to one of the charges. He was obviously charged with 3. He didn't reply to the other charges. He's been directed, the DPP has directed trial at the Special Criminal Court, which we know is a non-jury court. Mm-hmm. And there has been other guys
Paul Crosby,
Jared Cruz
and Jed McKenna.
Jed McKenna, yeah, they were found.
And the Special Criminal Court, Justice Tony Hunt named Robbie Lawler as the killer.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. And Robbie Lawler, I suppose, is the brother-in-law of Richie Carberry. So Richie Carberry was married to Robbie Lawler's sister. And then Stephen Carberry, the accused that was before court today, is the brother of Richie. Richie died in 2019 as part of the Drogheda feud.
Yeah.
He would have been on the anti-Maguire side of that faction. He was murdered. So that's that relationship there. But there was no bail in terms of the court today. Judge Monica Leach remanded Carberry in custody. He's going to appear again on the 31st of May. He was granted free legal aid and there was no bail application put forward. And
given this trial is going before the non-jury Special Criminal Court, we can talk a little bit around those charges because so Trinity Court was where the burning car was found. Let's go back to the murder of Keane Mulready-Woods first of all.
Yeah.
This would have been January of 2020 and Keane Mulready-Woods' sister put out a Facebook posting saying her brother was missing, wasn't answering his phone and did anybody have she was worried about him. Very quickly, I think the Gardaí realised he was dead. Yeah. And they had very good intel that led them to a house in Rathmullen Park in Drogheda, which later became the crime scene. It was the home of Jed McKenna, a kind of a local sort of troubled
soul and
type of a fellow who the court heard that he was sort of... He says he was threatened on the phone by a man he didn't identify, but who we can identify as Robbie Lawler, that he had kind of given over his house to this grouping and he had involved himself in a clean-up in the aftermath, but he certainly wasn't in the house when anything happened. No. But Mulready-Woods was 17 and he was taken to that home. He was met actually at the back of that home. He was taken by Paul Crosby, and
He'd arranged a meeting with Paul Crosby.
Paul Crosby at Ballsgrove shops. Their crews picked the two of them up and drove them to Rathmullen Park, and they were seen, I think, talking to Robbie Lawler at the back of that house.
There was CCTV, I think, of where they could see Robbie Lawler in that house.
Yeah.
But obviously, Robbie Lawler was a suspect, named as such, but he was murdered in Belfast, obviously, before any charges could be brought, because it was a slow investigation. And what happened after the body was, Keane Mulready's body was dismembered, was that initially some of the body parts, not to be really gruesome about it, but were driven at least towards a compound where Cornelius Price was.
I think the first thing that happened was a hold-all bag was found in Coolock in the Moatview estate. And it contained the legs of the teenager, along with a pair of flip-flops.
Yes, and there was speculation at the time that this was...
all went back to Robbie Lawler, was attacked outside a gym, and these young lads had taken his bag and his flip-flops and all the rest of it. So it was all due to this social media slagging of Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
So that was the first, that those remains were found in Moatview, and then maybe it was a day or 2 days later or something.
Yeah, so I think it was 2 days later, the burning car was discovered in Ballybough, and Keane's head and hands were found in that car.
In the boot.
Yeah, in the boot.
So what was meant to have happened was that Robbie Lawler was meant to have been in contact with Cornelius Price and saying, I'm dropping up these body parts to your house, that in some ways he got spooked or whatever happened, and instead the body parts ended up in the north inner city in a car that was set alight.
Yeah. And that car, I think it was about 1:30 in the morning when it was reported. I think the locals thought that there had been joyriders or a car stolen or something.
Yeah.
When the fire brigade came along and put out the fire, they just made that gruesome discovery in the boot. They continued to search the Gardaí up around Cornelius Price's compound in Gormanston for the remaining body part, which was the torso, which was, on a practical level for the investigation, a very important part of the remains to be found to uncover a kind of a cause of death.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can cause problems in a court going forward if they can't exactly say how somebody died. And that took quite a few months actually to find.
Yeah, it was actually more than, it was like March 2020.
Right.
So
2 months.
2 months it took them to find. Yeah, they conducted search at Wasteground in Rathmullen Park, and they discovered Keane's torso there. I think that search, I remember those pictures went on for a couple of days as well.
Yeah, see, they had some sort of information, obviously, but they didn't have an exact location, so it went on and on. But I mean, it's like, even just to speak about all that, like, it's so gruesome, isn't it?
Gruesome,
so horrific. I mean, it's the fact is, it was a child. I mean, you can't underestimate the fact that that he was 17 years old, Keane Mulready-Woods, and a child murder is.
And if you think of the gruesome nature of what that involves, moving all those body parts, and the geography as well. If you think of like several locations in Dublin, and then Louth, which is obviously over an hour away. And yeah, the torso was obviously found in Rathmullen Park, which is where two of the accused, Crosby and Cruz, actually have addresses as well. So they obviously...
And I think Rathmullen was one of the kind of the epicentres of that feud, wasn't it? Yeah. It was one of the estates that was really badly affected during that feud.
Absolutely, yeah.
Richie Carberry, the brother of this accused, Stephen Carberry, was a very significant character and all that. He was originally from the Coolock area, and he moved up to Bettystown sometime around 2005, 2006, which is the height of the Celtic Tiger boom, of course. And, all of this war was really funded and fueled by cocaine use in the area, with a growing population of young people commuting, working, earning money, spending it on cocaine. The gangs became pretty greedy, and I think one gang, the Price Maguire gang as we call them, split. A younger crew decided they could go it alone, and they split away from their old bosses, with Richie Carberry as a mentor of sorts to them. He was providing them with backup, with weapons, with drugs and sort of advice. So that's how Richie Carberry ended up dead, because he certainly he was seen as going to war with the Price Maguire faction.
I mean, Richie Carberry had almost no convictions at the time of his death. He had, he had legitimate sources of income as well, but he probably had become one of these guys who moved into being a drug wholesaler and was making a significant amount of money. He'd come from the Coolock area and would have grown up with people like Robbie Lawler, like Mr. Big, like other figures, grown up in roughly the same area, moved in the same circles, whether they were tightly in with each other or not.
Well, he married Robbie's sister, Eileen.
Yeah. And I think that his murder definitely contributed to tensions there, because of Robbie Lawler, who's known as a psychopath anyway, was said to be very upset. He was behind bars at the time of the murder and was seen.
He was awaiting trial.
Yeah.
And he was adamant, wasn't he? He was going to get off and get out. And
yeah, I remember Ken Foy doing a story about, security alerts upon his release, and he was very upset about that murder. So,
he kind of left prison on a mission to get even for his brother-in-law's murder. And so going back to what was said in court, so the charges he's facing relate to the Ballybough car, which we've described was discovered shortly after the body parts in Moatview. He's going to the special criminal court on that.
To the special criminal courts, yeah. There was another individual, this guy, his name is Owen Flood. So he appeared on completely separate charges now to Carberry. So he has an address in Ballybough Avenue, and he was basically accused of driving a stolen car, and he was also accused of theft of diesel. So these actually go to a couple of weeks before Keane's murder. So he's basically charged with using a car without the owner's consent at Sandymount Avenue on December 15, 2019. He's also accused of stealing diesel worth nearly €51 at a service station on December 22nd that year. And the detective sergeant basically gave evidence that when he was charged this morning, he replied to the first charge, "I will plead guilty straight away." But the DPP directed that he would be tried on indictment at the circuit court, which obviously would be a jury involved in that case. So he was also remanded in custody for the same date on May 31st. And I think he was granted legal aid as well.
Is the investigation then still going?
I suppose Ken Foy, as Eimear mentioned, would have written over the last few months that Gardaí hope to charge further people. Obviously, these charges, at least in this case, the charges are brought, the men haven't had a chance to have their say in court probably. But so I think the investigation continues. But I suppose it would show that that there is a lot of strands with these investigations. But obviously the main perpetrator is Robbie Lawler, who is dead. And that will never come to court as a result.
No, and I think that's probably why maybe people wouldn't have expected to continue to see charges, because, people when you think of murder, you think of who committed the murder. But as we know, especially in such a horrific crime as this, there's so many different moving parts as well.
But I mean, Stephen Carberry is charged under the anti-gangland laws again, because that's the legislation that's being used, and you just see it coming again and again. That's how the Gardaí are prosecuting these cases. The law allows them to bring in the existence of a criminal organisation while they bring these charges, and that's the case he will have to answer.
The fallout from the Drogheda feud kind of just keeps on and on. Obviously, there is an investigation into the murder of Richie Carberry. There's an investigation into the murder of Keith Brannigan, who was his associate. Presumably, they're investigating the attempted murder of Owen Maguire in 2018.
And his brother
Brendan.
Was shot at.
Exactly. Now, I think the shooting of Owen Maguire is also suspected to have been carried out by Robbie Lawler, so he's not around to answer any charges for that. And there's still some of those individuals and protagonists wanted. There's certainly two brothers who've been on the run since the Keane Mulready-Woods murder. And and they're wanted in connection with the sort of the kidnap and torture of an individual kind of during that whole tit for tat feuding between the gangs. They'd be on the anti-Price Maguire side. I understand one of them is in Dubai with the Kinahans.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you're looking for
If
sanctuary.
you're looking for good company, yeah.
Well, they have seemed to have moved around, and they've been certainly there's been references to them being in Mexico. They certainly seem to have spent time in Spain. There was a belief then that they were associating with people linked to the Kinahan cartel, and that they remained involved in the drugs trade back into Ireland. They may have attempted to or successfully stepped up their role and moved beyond becoming regional players, I suppose.
They're on the run like 4 years.
Yeah.
Like that is a long time.
It is.
Yeah.
To remain sort of in exile, and there was certainly suggestions that they had partners with them when they left, and they had both gone first to Spain, and then I think both had gone to Mexico, or certainly one of them.
We did a story that they were enjoying a holiday with the partners in Mexico.
Lovely.
But I'd imagine the party's probably over now, because you have to continue to fund yourself. And
Well, if you're in Dubai, you seem to be able to party away.
Well, maybe that's why they're there now, I suppose. And if you have,
you do have to be able to fund yourself. It's expensive to stay on the run.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I suppose if you found yourself a role within the Kinahan organisation, you've probably been on the payroll there. But they always say they're always got, even the far more famous criminals than them have been tracked down across the world and brought back. So I think I'm just listening to a thing at the moment. Actually, I'll be interviewing the guy about it, and he's sort of done a study. He was a child of somebody that was on the run, and he was on the run with his father, basically. But he has looked at that whole idea of being a fugitive, what it's like, the psychological effect of being on the run, sleep with one eye open, waiting for the police to come in the door, and how long people can do it for, and what's the outcome. And like his conclusion is pretty much the outcome for nearly 100% of them is that they'll ultimately get caught and brought back, and they serve their time in prison anyway. And any money they made to allow them go on the run is spent while on the run.
Yeah, and the amount of them that come back, just
they give up.
They give up. Yeah, because a lot of criminals, obviously, they love their area, don't they? I mean, that's where the reason for being in crime is to be a big shot in the area.
Yeah.
And what's the point in being a little shot?
Well, I won't give away too much more on this, because we will be doing something pretty big on it, but they actually mainly give up, and he'd be talking about the big guys, because they just can't cope anymore, or something happens, like a relative dies, or it all falls apart, or they can't stay away from their children any longer, or their mothers, or
but it must create a lot of mental health issues though as well, like a lot of anxiety. But I guess it's the same with that lifestyle in general. Even if you're not on the run, if you're involved in gangland crime, you're always going to be kind of wondering, if one of your rivals is going to take you out as well. So I suppose maybe they get used to that kind of mindset.
I don't know. Do you ever?
Yeah.
So how has the rest of the week been?
Good. It's been kind of a funny week, hasn't it? There's been a lot of showbiz scandal.
There's a lot of this
within 2FM.
So you're going to compare 2FM now to the Kinahan cartel?
No, I'm not.
Eimear,
I'm
get
not.
this bit legal.
I saw on our group chat that you put up yesterday, Jennifer Zamparelli has left 2FM, and I was about to send back a text saying,
who cares?
WTF. I did actually care. I've asked about 10 questions about it.
The reason I did that was because I looked around me and everybody was gone. And I said, how am I only on the first day back from my holidays and I'm still the last here? So I had to share my excitement with
And you didn't
people.
see this either.
What?
The head of 2FM personally apologising to Eugene Masterson.
Yeah.
I read it because I'm so interested in the story, because I came into the newsroom today and the first thing I said was, why is Jennifer Zamparelli leaving 2FM? Are they not paying them? Are they trying to cut their wages or something? Of course, we can't get to the bottom of that, can we?
No. Well, that was the context as well that I sent the message, because we had done 2 stories where, first of all, Dan Healy denied it, said, quoting him, it's bullshit, 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 bullshit. He said bullshit 4 times.
Yeah.
And weeks ago only.
I think it was
true?
like
She
April.
wasn't leaving or whatever.
Yeah, about this story going
Yeah.
around that because she went on extended leave and the rumour was that she wasn't coming back, and he said that was completely untrue. And then the rumours continued, and one of the rumours was that she was going to get a Cobra Centre and apparently wasn't happy about this. And then again we followed up with him, and then we also Eugene got onto Jennifer's age, and this was only 2 weeks ago, and she said
Nothing to see here.
it's completely what Dan Healy is saying is true. She is coming back. That was only 2 weeks ago. So twice they denied it. So that's why I was in exasperation. I was like, she is leaving.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Eugene, from his holidays, is he in the Canaries?
Yeah, because I texted him, you're going to write it up.
Oh, is that why? Because myself and Brian Farrell were in news
And
meetings.
he quite likes those sort of, being apologised to and being proven right.
Oh, he does. He literally, you think, you'd be, if you're on holidays, you'd be like, on a sun lounger having breakfast somewhere. Straight away, Dan Healy wasn't even off air. And Eugene texts Brian Farrell and myself saying, Dan has just apologised to me on air. So he was.
So that's the headline.
So he's vindicated.
Sunday World reporter gets apology.
Why not?
Well, that was our headline, actually.
Such a rare occasion.
It is such a rare occasion that anybody would apologise to a Sunday World journalist.
And Eugene as well.
And Eugene to top it off, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been that kind of a week. It's been all that sort of stuff. And
there's been a few.
We were just saying there,
live
myself and
stories.
Niall, I mean, the amount of crime content is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do, if we had the time, twice what we do.
Oh,
it's just unreal.
If you just think of like the number of arrests alone, like there was 4 guys arrested over an incident in Ennis, and then today
There's cab raids.
Yeah, there was cab raids, and then there was a guy arrested for hitting a Garda with a car as well. So just to think of the sheer number of arrests.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're all different type of offences, but yeah, it's just continuous.
There's just so much. Then you have all the courts. So when do the courts come to their?
Well, the courts are actually off this week.
Are they?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think it's probably been a slower week in terms of just because of the lack of court copy. There's been a few obviously big stories in relation to the raids, and then
Did you say there was another sentence that you were?
Oh yeah, I was just saying, obviously in the back of us talking a couple of weeks ago about lenient sentencing for sexual offenders, and I think we did touch on one guy who groped a girl on an airplane. So there was another one similar today about a data engineer who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl on a Dublin bus, and he avoided jail sentence. So he sat beside her and concealed his hand with a bag and then began to rub her leg and tried to put her hand up her skirt. This is a 14-year-old girl.
Okay.
So Judge David McHugh gave him a 4-month sentence, but he suspended it for 2 years. So he won't be in jail at all.
Okay, unless he reoffends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
breaks the bail conditions.
Yeah. So we've had, obviously cases like that. And again, I suppose it
any
leads
crimes,
back to what we were saying.
Any crimes against Niall Donald?
Well, Niall has had a few crimes committed against us because we were all reading his private results of his personality test. Yeah.
Would you ever complain, any of us, to HR?
He loves it. He loves it.
No, I hate the attention.
He loves it.
I try to hit back in my own way.
I get given out all the time for slagging him off, but he loves it, doesn't he, Eimear?
He does. Yeah,
no, I
he
don't
does.
like it, no.
I get it's slagged for giving him backhanded compliments.
Yeah. Compsults.
That's
you
what
told him he looks well
I
on
think
camera.
he looks really well on camera.
As in not in
but
real
Niall
life. It's the automatic implication.
What I realised is Niall is one of these people that he is like, he loves talking and he's very confident, but he doesn't take a compliment well. It's like, do you know what they say?
He's
Women are
gone
bad at
red there,
taking
look.
compliments.
No, I don't.
Every time I give him a compliment.
Everyone tune into YouTube to see this.
Every time I give him a compliment, he looks for the negative side of the compliment.
That's an Irish thing.
Yeah, it's an Irish thing. But
It is totally an Irish thing. It's like if somebody says to you, I love your top, and you go, oh, pennies.
Yeah.
You just can't go, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to learn how to be a bit better about taking the good as well as the bad, because we get plenty of that, don't we?
We get plenty of
And
that,
I hit back in my own way.
Oh yeah, no, he never gives me compliments.
For example, is if Richie Carberry is the brother of Stephen Carberry, Is Stephen Carberry not also Robbie Lawler's brother-in-law?
No, do you know what this
Rather
is?
be the
No,
brother
excuse
of the...
me.
Go on.
He's
Excuse
still not
me.
his
I actually-
brother-in-law.
Thank you, Nicola.
Go on,
I
tell
actually
us.
was about to
Go
say
on, tell us
Stephen
then.
Carberry's brother-in-law because Robbie Lawler's sister is married to Richie. Was married to Richie Carberry.
Very good.
So can you admit when you're wrong?
I apologise.
Was that in one of your?
Eimear, can I just say, well done. That is unique. That is unique. It's not how to handle him, and certainly don't touch him. But
I actually, because Niall thinks
I got that as well
Niall thinks he
immediately.
knows
that
it all.
obviously he's not his brother-in-law.
and Niall knows that I have this, I always have this overthinking guilt complex. So I actually was thinking after I said that sounds so garbled the way I explained it, but I explained it for that
You
reason.
explained it correctly.
You know, so I've learned from the master now. I did because I did think about that first, and then I was like, "Thank God I didn't say that. That would have been stupid."
He's having a bad day there now.
No,
He
this
is.
is a good day.
There's
I
two
like being
against
put in my
one, is
place
there?
now. I like it.
We kind of gang up on him a bit, do
no.
we?
We do,
Yeah,
yeah.
bitch.
I think we both are, because you're obviously not in the office every day. So I think I'm like you to him every day, and then you come in, and then it's like double whammy.
So we double now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll apologise for that. Maybe it's not fair.
Maybe.
No.
Maybe.
No, I double down.
Righto, we'll talk next week.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.